Welcome to The Backstory, a special series from Future of Faith. In each episode, we take a look behind the scenes of projects from the National Storytelling Initiative on Christian Faith and Life. We'll be pulling back the curtains on our own work, sharing the wins and the struggles, and inviting others on to do the same. We're going to learn from each other and build this community together.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Elizabeth Coffey. I'm here with my friends. I can't wait to keep talking about storytelling, one of my favorite topics of all time. So before we jump in and hear from our guest today, I am eager to hear an update from both Shannon and Josh on their projects, what they're learning, even incremental learnings. So no matter what, no matter how big the learning, no matter how small, just today in this season, what's up with your projects? What's new? What can you share with our audience as they track your story? Josh, you want to start us off?
Yeah, sure. It's been it's really good to have this rhythm. I mean, I don't know how everybody else receives it, but for me to get to think and like as we're going on, taking these little micro steps and looking back as we had our little summer break for the podcast, we took a few weeks to try and get our schedules aligned. And so I was just trying to think back to what we said last time. And so the update from that is that we are now like fully on. In fact, today, after we get done recording here, I jump into our first interviews for our digital media person, which is the other person we're hiring for our job. And I was so amazed, not surprised, but still very impressed by the quality of the candidates that we got for what was like, to me, what felt like just a wildly audacious job description. Where I felt like we asked for everything under the sun, including like ideally somebody who speaks Spanish and does videography and does social media and on and on and on. Because we just kind of felt like, okay, well, there are different combinations of people that could work here, and we're not going to arbitrarily narrow this down. So it's, I hope we made it clear. I think we tried to in the job call that, just because you didn't have one set of skills didn't mean that you were disqualified. Just sort of like make the best case. We know we're going to have to hire out to fill in some gaps, but we wanted one person that on staff that we knew could cover a lot of ground. So we're in the process of that, and then like fielding some RFPs. I mean, things are starting to feel very real. We're going to start, in part it's like because we're going to start spending some money, which we haven't had much to spend yet because a lot of it's just been developing. And so we're, other than like the hiring of the project directors, most of the money has just been kind of like hanging out for a little bit, doing a little bit of research and stuff. But for some reason, there's like when the cash starts going out the door, that for me is like a signal of like, oh my goodness, okay, real things are happening now.
Well, and I think you did update us on the project director hire, and I've been noticing different folks who have these grants when they're posting their jobs like on LinkedIn or various other network emails and things that are coming through. It's been a similar pattern. Folks have hired their project director first, and now these other roles are starting to trickle out as people are allowing that project director to actually make the hires that they actually need to make the things. So thanks for that update.
And I would say if people have job descriptions that they want advertised, please do send them to me, josh@futureoffaith.org. We put these kind of things on our newsletter twice a month, every single month. And so we'd be thrilled to promote them.
Same. Please. The Lake Institute would love to do the same. Happy to send it out to folks. Would love to make sure our networks know. So, Shannon,
Wait, no, I have a question, Josh, about hire. Are you fully remote? Are you looking for them to be in proximity to you or Nikki or?
Fully remote, US based. I think that'll probably, we don't do, Megan Bissell, my co-founder, like we live across town from each other. We see each other more socially than we do at work. We do more video chatting at work actually than like occasionally we'll just go to each other's homes, but we're pretty comfortable on remote environments.
No, I was just curious. Oh, very exciting to see who you hire. Same. I feel like things have turned a corner with our project. I think one is we have just gotten back all the qualitative and quantitative data, which has been really amazing. Mike, who is on the marketing and advertising group, says Louise is by far the best person he's worked with in the whole career. And, we did use Barna. Barna has also said she's made them work harder than any client ever has. She just kept staring at the questions. And
I know those kind of clients.
So, but we have gotten back some rich data, and it's really been lovely to have not just the data on this sheet, but to have somebody that's a professional in the field of audience and distribution of content to
Mm.
nuance and pull back the layer of that. And I will say one thing that's been shocking, I'll give this away, my team uh might not like it, but because we're trying to figure out how to share this widely with the whole with other storytelling grantees. But we benchmarked, we're focused on the Duns, but we benchmarked this both against active Christians and um nuns, people that have never had any experience in church. But what's been really interesting is there is a wildly high percentage of active Christians that when she interpreted the data, she said it is very clear the majority of active Christians are standing at the threshold of the door looking out, like 1 foot out the door.
Mm.
And
Oh yeah. Yeah.
and that everyone is seeking a different type of story, like
Hmm.
something that feels more compelling and relevant. So, it's just super interesting in the midst of that. But the data is so rich and so layered. And yeah, so that's
That's
what,
been true for so long. I mean, the church has just not paid attention to that back door. I mean, like even as long ago as when I was writing Church Refugees and group publishing, to their undying credit, I never would have thought about this, but they were like, this is a qualitative book. Let's do a quantitative study to go with it, and commission this research project that I led. And it was the same thing then. Like we did projections about it. Look, the shocking number isn't just the number of people who have left. The really shocking number is that we asked in the survey, you know, do you think you'll still be going to church in 6 months or a year or something like that? I
yeah,
can't remember. It was a while ago. And that number was like really alarming. The number of people that said no, like
yeah,
they were on their way out.
yeah. No, and it just keeps growing, right? Like, and so, no, but also the richness of like, it's not about woundedness. It's, like where people
Yeah.
are looking for, like, actually people want a credible, um, faith, tradition, community, like and they give real, like rich data and answers just about how they're thinking about both faith communities and engaging with spirituality and God, specifically Christian, a Christian God. So that's really interesting. So
Shannon,
that,
I'll be curious. Like, I know that what gets a lot of the headlines is that people leave the church because they're hurt in some way. My sense has always been, and I'll be curious if this comes out in your data about like, it's that does exist, but
it's a
the
great,
bigger slice of the pie is a lack of value add. That it's
mm,
that people don't see the church as adding value to their lives. Not so much that it's damaging them, but it's that they don't. I don't want to put it in such transactional terms, but I don't really know how else to say it. I don't mean to be like, well, there's not enough French fries in my French fry order, but
yeah,
that's like a metaphor for what like they're just not.
it's,
It's not
it
offering them anything.
It is a teeny tiny amount of like actually that it's coming out of windiness. And
Mm,
there are like 4 other factors that come out way bigger and clearer, but also that give us hope for like, well,
mm.
there are the stories that meet that, and there are the communities that meet that desire. So yeah, I think hold the space. We are thinking about
Oh,
what to do with the data. So that's one thing we've moved forward. In July, we're meeting the marketing advertising group. So Asha will be with us, and we will actually encounter like the frameworks and the campaign and everything that the brand of this storytelling work, kind of based on all of the learning we've been doing. So that feels super excited about that. And then we're creating some test stories that will go back to the next round of data. That's and then the final thing is we're working towards a storytelling gathering, which we're going to host in Texas. No surprise there. At Laity Lodge. We are going to gather like industry experts along with emerging storytellers and practitioners, to help people think about how they become story hunters and what makes good storytelling and some formation of storytellers. We are going to look for partners on that, but into the first quarter, beginning of the second quarter, we're going to host that. So if people want to partner or on a gathering of storytellers, reach out.
that'll
So
be awesome.
That
yeah,
is so that is so exciting. I am eager and excited, as you all discern, alongside, it sounds like, some other folks, and how to share that and translate that data in a way that is meaningful to others. So super excited, I guess, like teaser for that.
Yeah.
Stay tuned to hear how that unfolds, I guess, as y'all are in your discernment process. And I want to just say it's been wonderful. I know I have no pressure on my shoulders to steward an initiative like you both are carrying, but you both are trying to, as well as many others who are inside of the grant pool, trying to make sure that they're surrounding themselves with the right people to do the work well.
Mm.
Right. Very much, Josh, what y'all have taken time to make sure you are surrounding yourself. You have the right people on board to steward the work well. But then that, Shannon, your project demonstrates with a whole nother group of folks are also doing, which is how do you listen well? How do you learn well? How do you gather well right now? I think like people taking the time to do that is only a good thing. And so if anyone listening out there is frustrated by the time it takes to do any of those things well, I hope you're encouraged that you're not alone in that. Folks are doing that with wisdom and care. So super grateful.
Well, can I just offer one other thing too that's been like actually honestly harder than I expected it to be is that this is the first thing of this size that I've been a part of, like in my organization at various stops that I'm not like actually in charge of day to day. Like it was never
Mm.
intended to be me. It was never going to be me. We've known that all along. But I'm the conduit, the biggest conduit between the rest of our organization and this project. So a lot of my
Mm.
job is to make sure, like, okay, this isn't a side project that is folded into future phase work, and does everybody feel integrated? And also, like, am I aware enough of what Nikki's doing to help either provide some guidance or some guardrails if there are like other angles that Future Faith has that we, things that we know, et cetera. That's been, I trust Nikki. Like, we didn't hire somebody right out of, undergrad to run this project. She's a full-on professional who's done harder things than this in the past. And so it's not a question of that, but my default is always like dig in, dig in, dig in, and trying to find that right place of stepping back to say, okay, wait, what does Nikki actually need from me here? And it's not to dig in and micromanage or tell her what to do or anything like that, of course. But then, like, where is my value? Not because I need to be providing value, but like I don't want to be here if I'm not offering something, so I should step out of the way. And that's been super interesting. So I imagine I don't know if other people are feeling that, but it's well, Shannon, you all have like a conglomerate of people. I mean, from different orgs. Like
Yeah.
it's just finding it. I think the other thing that the reason I thought of Elizabeth is because you said it takes time to hire. I think it also has taken us time to figure out like what's the right lane.
Yeah. Well,
No,
that's
I
good. And
think right.
no,
Yeah,
go
go ahead.
ahead, Shannon.
No, I was just gonna say I agree. I think because this isn't the main like work of Rooted Good, like it's the
Right.
same. It's like we believe in this, we need these stories out there, it will help our work. But then it's a conglomerate team and we have experts we've hired and we're inside their process and it has moved so much slower and with less agency than anything else I've ever done because you're having to build a coalition. I think it's interesting. I do think this grant demanded it because of the size of it as well.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
yeah. So,
No, thanks for vulnerably also, Josh, naming that weight, because I think there are many people who when you're writing the proposal feel one way, and now in the middle of it who are leading, who are academic deans, who are leading institutions, who are pastoring, or who are also trying to lead the actual nonprofit that they're trying to run. I feel like, yeah, I think many are in that boat as well. So grateful. And I think what we've tried to do with this podcast in a miniature way while people are listening on their own time and in their own spaces is to kind of create the environment for those conversations, hopefully to spark and happen offline or with and between one another. But it's exciting to now have the endowment announce that there is a coordination program being developed. And so if it's all right with y'all, I'd love to transition to our guest who Shannon got to interview, and then we'll process more afterwards. But Shannon, do you want to
yeah.
give us our intro to what we're about to hear?
Yeah, I think most people know that Melissa Spas is the managing director of the coordination program at Belmont for the endowment. They're like, I probably don't have that as nuanced as the title is, but she's just moved to Nashville from New York. She's been in a major transition, but she started like 2 weeks ago. And, I've known Melissa since she was at Lake and then she was at Chautauqua. Actually, I met her when she was still at Duke working at Leadership Education, which is now the Forum. So it's just great to sit down with her and hear what she's thinking as she starts this role. So that's it. We just sat down to talk about who she was, what her hopes are for the coordination program, and what the role of the coordination program is, because there are a lot of grantees in this initiative that they have their first Lilly grant ever. So, so we'll listen to what Melissa had to say. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm here today with Melissa Spas, who is the managing director of the National Storytelling Coordination Program at Belmont University. There's a whole other line to this, which is I'm going to let her go on and on about. But if you were on the call recently, Melissa's just moving into this role. She's about to move to Nashville, and I'm so excited to be with Melissa today. So, hi.
Hi, Shannon. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of this podcast.
Well, it really is a pleasure. I was just delighted by the news when I heard you got the role. So, let's just go to that title for a minute. There are actually a lot of layers. So you're the managing director of the coordination program for the storytelling initiative. But let's talk about that. And at Belmont University is
Yeah.
your actual where you're going.
Yes. Well, and it is a full circle moment in some ways for me, because I've spent most of my professional life working in and around the funding ecology of Lilly Endowment Incorporated. Uh, I worked in my first role in this area was at leadership education at Duke Divinity, now the Forum for Congregational Life, where I worked under Greg Jones, he was dean of Duke Divinity School. He is now president of Belmont University. And so very excited to join his team and very excited to be in a position to offer support and encouragement to the grantees in the National Storytelling Initiative for Christian Life and Faith. Lilly Endowment is deeply invested in this narrative work, this storytelling work, the future of American Christian life as represented by these diverse stakeholders. So, really enthusiastic about that. Just
Well,
a little bit more about myself, Shannon. I spent about 7 years working at Duke in a variety of roles, and then at Indiana University, where I was managing director for education and engagement at Lake Institute on Faith and Giving, which is part of Indiana University's Lilly Family School of Philanthropy. That is where Elizabeth Coffey now works. And I love those wonderful colleagues, loved doing that work. But about 4 years ago, I was invited to join Chautauqua Institution as vice president for religion. And so that is my hometown. It's an institution that really shaped my vocation as a teenager, as a young person, and had the privilege of leading programming in religion with a incredible, diverse lecture series and a really wonderful worship program as well. So spent several years doing programming in a different way, but now very, very excited to be in a position to offer leadership and support for this grant initiative.
I really hated it that I didn't go to Chautauqua while you were there because I kept looking at the programming you were putting together and going, oh, it looks so good, looks so good. And that excites me about you moving into this role and getting to really shape. You're going to get to shape the gatherings and the learning and map some learning. And yeah, I'm just wondering what are you excited about getting stuck into, and where's your imagination going for coordinating this program?
I really am grateful for the opportunity to talk about it because uh, I am at heart a learner, and coordination really is the mechanism for grantees in an initiative to learn with and from one another, and for the endowment to learn from what grantees are engaged in. I am particularly excited about the diversity and range of the grant recipients and the projects. And it's helpful to me to think about those two things uh, in parallel with one another. So the grantees themselves are diverse religiously: Catholic, Pentecostal, mainline, evangelical, Orthodox, and they're diverse organizationally.
Mm.
There are congregations, there are colleges and seminaries, there are judicatories, there are media organizations, uh, there are nonprofit organizations, which are also very diverse as well. So, from Christian organizations that serve people in prison or leaving gangs to membership organizations,
Mm.
global NGOs addressing a whole host of social concerns, and then child and family serving charities. Uh, I'm sure I'm leaving someone out because there really is this great breadth
Yeah.
among the grantees. Uh, the grantees also are representative of different parts of this country, of Black, Hispanic, and Asian church groups.
Mm.
They're telling the stories of different demographics and age groups and attending to audiences
Mm.
uh, that are quite diverse in that regard as well. And there are so many different expressions of American Christianity represented in this initiative. So I'm very excited by that representation. Uh,
Mm.
but the projects themselves are also diverse. And so that's something that even in listening to the couple of episodes of the podcast that I have, and in talking with you and with others, uh, it just is incredibly energizing because there are projects that are focused on documentary filmmaking and on producing photo essays and on making podcasts, and those that are focused on print and digital writing. Many projects are doing several of those things for layering their storytelling together. There are projects that really major in face-to-face storytelling practice and nurturing that practice in a variety of different contexts. And there are projects that have a significant emphasis on the dynamics of which stories get told and why, and to whom those stories belong. So there is just this complexity, diversity, and a richness to the project. That's what I get excited about.
That's amazing. I mean, I'm just sitting here going, have you read everyone's project proposal? Like, you haven't even, like, you've just started, but it sounds like you're already mapping everyone and starting to cluster in your mind. And yeah.
Well, it truly is a privilege. And I will just say that this is the privileged position from which we as a coordination program um, are invited to serve, which is that we can look across and take sort of the 30,000-foot view to what's happening, and to be in a position where our primary activity, our primary objectives are in service of the grantees themselves, of the projects and the people who are making those projects happen.
Yeah, I love that. And you said before we started, you said when I asked how the call went the other day, which I couldn't be on, and you said, but I think we demonstrated hospitality. We offered hospitality, and that feels really important. I wonder, yeah, what do you want people to feel in the portfolio right now? You know, all the grantees, if you could say one thing or what you really want to model in the next few years? What does that look like for you?
Well, for those who have spent time in the Lilly ecology or who have projects that have been funded by other Lilly grant initiatives, this won't be any surprise, but I approach this work with an expectation that there is tremendous wisdom in the room, that every contextually located project, and some of them are national in scope, some of them are very local, but every project has wisdom and expertise to share. And that uh, it's our privilege to invest in that wisdom and expertise as learners. And then the uh, capacity to learn from what the collective will accomplish is enriched when we create some framework, some structure uh, to facilitate that learning. So when I think about what it is that I really am hopeful for, I'm hopeful that we can uh, achieve the objectives of the coordination program itself. There are three key objectives, and they are all tied to supporting grantee organizations and the project objectives, and then the people who are doing the work. So I will get to hospitality because I think that's at the heart of this. It's at the heart of invitation. But the objectives are to facilitate and foster a national network of grantees, and we have a sort of suite of activities that will support that. None of this will be a surprise to anyone. Annual conferences and convenings, webinars, building relationships. That we will support peer-to-peer learning and the exchange of experience, expertise, knowledge, learnings, discoveries among the grantees. And then the third is that we will then be in a position as a coordination program to develop and make available resources for grantees based on the emerging patterns and needs. So yeah, so toward that end, there's activity that we are really built for. So this is sort of deepening some of that expected coordination program work. The first is listening. I'm really excited about this because I'm just impatient to get to know the projects better, the people doing the projects. So if you have not yet heard from me or my team inviting you to a conversation, just know it's coming because we're really eager for that learning in relationship. So listening is the first activity. The second activity is gathering people together, convening regularly. So we have scheduled a convening online for those who received their grants in 2024, and that will be in October of this year. And then May 10th through 12th, 2027 in Indianapolis, we will convene the 2024 and 2025 grantees all together for some of that shared learning and network development space. And that really then leads to the third key activity, which is facilitating that learning and gleaning from it what we need to know to create additional learning environments. If that's setting up a series of webinars based on the interests, needs, challenges, opportunities of the grantees themselves.
I love it. I think that's great. It's such an exciting time. This is also like it's not just a new initiative, but it's a new coordination program. And with that, it feels like you can have lots of creativity. So you bring best practice but with creativity, and then you can be very responsive. I just feel excited to see what comes. I wonder, this is a off the cuff question, just, and you can you can say, I don't want to answer it. But, sometimes in grantee pools, this is not exclusive to Lilly, this is across philanthropic grantees. actually getting into cooperation and coordination, um, much less collaboration, it's really hard because there actually is a level of competition that's and people wanting to do their own thing to like stand out.
Mhm.
At a time when we need more cooperation and collaboration. And um what do you think about that in this moment? And again, that's not a Lily. This is it's a kind of a proven philanthropic sector. And because of your work at Lake, I know you will have seen this. And so how do we like lower the competition and increase the context for coordination and cooperation and collaboration?
Such a thoughtful question, Shannon. I really appreciate it. And it is interesting because I think there probably is a very um, like Lilly Family School of Philanthropy answer that would point to the research, which shows that generosity begets generosity, and that there's actually less competition than human nature would have us perceive
Mm,
or experience. That when we are invitational in our posture, and I would say this is my experience and deep conviction from the work with Lake Institute focused on religious philanthropy, that when we are really strongly aligned around values and operating in a space where uh, we're doing work that uses our highest gifts organizationally, and then for the philanthropists, whether that's a foundation or an individual donor, uh, it does not, in fact, lead to scarcity. It leads to abundance. It
mm,
leads to an experience of collaboration, cooperation, expansiveness
mm,
that, I mean, partly this is why I'm so excited to be a part of this initiative, that it is distinctive
mm,
to religious practice.
mm.
And that really speaks to the end of this initiative, which is that people come through this work to know and love God.
Yeah.
It is not an end that is easily quantified. But if we're able to keep our vision, keep our head lifted that high
Yeah.
to see that it is the common Christian enterprise
Mm,
that pulls a thread through all of this work, I think that it allows people to relax a bit
mm,
and say, in fact, we're incentivized to collaborate and to cooperate. I also will just repeat something that Chris Coble said in the call that we had with the grantees earlier this week, which is that coordination as an activity of Lilly Endowment is built on invitation and not demand.
mm,
It is designed so that the endowment can continue to learn from the grant making that they're engaged in. And as a byproduct, we expect that there will be uh, benefit to learning for resources developed that will serve grantee purposes. But that it really is fundamentally based in hospitality in that way, that people are invited to bring their gifts and to share them with open hands. Uh, uh, but we recognize that that is contextual and it is different for different people. It takes me back to the diversity of this initiative
mm,
because every project is situated in its own location, in its own context. Uh, I think this is a through line for me professionally, and it's part of what attracts me to doing this kind of work. Uh, is that I, from my earliest memory, uh, have been influenced by the idea that when people who are different from one another stand shoulder to shoulder and share their perspective, it is the only way that we expand our view. Uh, the philosopher Gadamer talks about this as the fusion of horizons. But it is so compelling to me to work in spaces where people who perhaps superficially do not share much in common
Mm.
are then invited in, and particularly with a shared religious identity or conviction, uh, to help others learn from that perspective, to share generously as educators. So I realize that, like, for me, philanthropy is so much more than the resource question. It really is about that kind of expansive posture of generosity. And that makes me excited about this work because I feel that we are able to hold space, create some space that people can enter in that way.
Oh, I love it. I mean, I'm with you. I mean, and I think you know me well enough to know, like, I'm always about what can we do together and what can we learn and how can we learn faster so that we can really take that learning and apply it, and we don't have to wait till that learning's out of date, right? Like, I'm with you. I think that's one of my big hopes for this initiative is that we'll see um, more more coordination and collaboration because I think it is, you know, I think you're right about the breadth. Kind of what we're seeing on the podcast is that breadth. And you do have a lot of people that are working on individual storytelling, but like for people that are like really wanting to do some broadcast stuff, a lot of the people that have been given grants, this isn't actually our work. Like I would just speak to our like Wesleyan Impact Partners, Parish Collective, Rooted Good. Like we aren't broadcasters. We've got a lot of good stories, but we know people need to hear those in different ways to be inspired and formed in different ways. Um, and so it's a good opportunity to learn. It's different than some of the other work where you come in and it's in your wheelhouse. And so, whereas actually we can all learn and we can all share our learning and we all need to get better, you know. So I'm excited about that. When you think about the whole 5 years, this is the next 5 years and who knows what will happen because I hear they're giving another tranche of grant. So that's another year that's at least added. When you think about the next 5 to 6 years, what are your hopes for this whole initiative?
Oh, well, I mean, I really think that uh, the answer to that question comes from the grantees themselves. Uh, that's maybe the unique position of coordination. Uh, I don't know that uh, I don't know that I can articulate uh, a a vision of where we will be at the end of these 5 years, apart from uh, the clarity that the initiative itself has about those animating questions.
Mm,
And again, that really does lead us toward that very fundamental piece that these projects are at scale and have potential to truly move the needle in some measurable ways and some ways that are challenging to measure, challenging to evaluate, but with the shared perspective of inviting, encouraging, nurturing uh, people to come to love and know God.
mm,
Uh, Story is such a powerful mechanism. And I feel a little bit of self consciousness about this because uh, if somebody had asked me a few months ago, like, Melissa, are you a storyteller or what's your relationship with storytelling? I'd have said, oh, I'm so grateful to have spent lots of time around excellent storytellers. I've always benefited from the wonderful work of storytellers. Every organization I've been a part of has relied on storytelling. But myself, I'm mostly on that beneficiary side of the equation. And then I realized that the place where I have talked about this. So I say this because my hope is that institutionally, organizationally, this broad landscape will come along on some kind of journey like this to understand storytelling as practice, as a important component of religious institutional life or organizational life, that leaders will embrace storytelling as important in the same way that they embrace learning for their organization, for example. So I'm vulnerably sharing some of my own journey with this. But some part of my hope is that people will feel more confident naming storytelling as capacity.
Mm,
Uh, and I am excited to learn about what that looks like.
yeah.
Uh,
Well, I just love that you come in going, I'm gonna learn, we're gonna listen, we're here to support. Um, and actually you tell us. That's what I hear too. You tell us. Very
well, I mean, I want to know, Shannon, even in this conversation, I want to know what the hope is for your project, and I would put it to Josh as well. Like,
yeah.
what's the hope on their project? So when you all get together, I want to hear that response as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think well, I'll save it for our conversation then with Josh. But I'll say I think you named something a minute ago about, this isn't scale. This is ambitious. This is $500 million into storytelling, and we are regardless of um denomination, affiliation, like we are a story people, right? And we have a story to tell. And feels to me that the world and the church needs to be in that story in a more alive way today. So it's really exciting. And I feel so excited we're gonna get together in less than a year. Less than a year. We'll be
Yes.
together in Indianapolis. And yeah. So, and I
Well,
you're gonna grow a team. It's
yeah.
not just you. You've got two people with you. You're gonna hire a couple of positions.
Yes, two wonderful colleagues have already become a part of this team, uh, Libby DeGrave and Kaylee Reindell, and so I hope that uh, folks in the initiative are going to have the chance to connect with them sooner rather than later. And then a wonderful team at Belmont resourcing and supporting this. Uh, One thing that is really distinctive is that Belmont is home to the Creative Arts Collective, supported by Lilly Endowment as well. And that group is actively invested in uh, creating opportunities for individual artists and arts organizations to advance their work where it intersects with Christian life. And there's a creativity at Belmont and a creativity in the organization as a result of this investment of Lilly Endowment that uh, makes a wonderful atmosphere. Uh, but I anticipate that our coordination program will uh, benefit from learning from the way that they work and learning from the other coordination programs. We have wonderful colleagues in this landscape at the Forum for Congregational Life at Duke, at Indiana Wesleyan University with Mandy Drury and her team, at Calvin, where they have led coordination as well. And so that is it's just a wonderful discovery for me and collegiality among coordination programs. Uh, I think the thing that I would um, sort of lift up about this as we're developing the work is that we really are grateful to be in the position of student, of attentive listener. I say that about myself, but it's really the way that I think about team development. Uh, that's the first activity, and then we get to practice hospitality. And that's what happens in a gathering. Nothing makes me feel more connected to the gospel than extending and receiving hospitality. Uh, that is so foundational to my understanding of my own faith. I love to gather around a table, real or virtual, and I love to share meals, to hear stories. I love to get to know what people care about most. And I really love the chance to learn with and from the wise people around me. Um, so it's amazing. This is church at its best.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Oh, and gosh, I hope you there is a very loud dog out my window. Um, but as you were talking, I had this image of like, oh my gosh, we're actually going to be together for a storytelling initiative gathering, and everyone's going to have some really great stories to tell. I could just imagine lots of little fire pits or something like we're gathered around telling, like it just feels like, or the big long table with stories and being shared. There's going to be a lot.
There's something very distinctive about the substantive content of this initiative that I think will make our gatherings just come to life. We're, of course, in the first 2 years, there's a lot of operational work for so many projects, and we want to support that, nurture it, help people learn from one another. But sort of as that is unfolding, there is just a lot of encouragement and energy that will come from figuring out ways for us to share the stories together. Not just talk about storytelling, but to, in fact, enter into storytelling together.
Well, Melissa, look, I am so, so, so excited that you're in this role. I can't wait for our paths to keep crossing. We're going to keep listening to the grantees. We're trying, just as you're getting started, we keep trying to say, how can we help build that relational field, bring people closer together and learn? It's same. We're learning for our own projects, so we don't have to wait. But yeah, we're here too. So if you need anything, that you know where I am. So
Thank
let's
you. Thank you. Really grateful. I mean, it has been a wonderful gift to me to hear the voices of project directors and folks contributing and to hear your reflections. So, really grateful for that and grateful for the invitation.
and Josh and I'm sure Elizabeth will put us on the spot to name our hopes. So we will do that. Look, have a great day. Have a great move. Blessings on you and your family as you make your way across the country. Okay, so there you have it. That was Melissa Spas talking about the role of the coordination program. And at the end, I asked her what her hopes were for the whole of the initiative. Like as she sits here and thinks about, for her, it's going to be at least the next 6 years of work because there's another round of grants being given. What does she want to see it achieve? And she said, well, I'd really like to know from you and Josh what your hopes are. And so maybe if we start there, um, yeah, the hopes for the whole storytelling initiative. Josh, what are you, from the time you read the RFP to now being deep in the weeds, what are your hopes for what this whole initiative could achieve?
Hmm. I mean, I'll steal some like language from the Texas Methodist Foundation or Wesley Investment. I mean, I hope this is expanding imaginations. I mean, it it is such a sizable amount of money for the world that we're in, and I'm acutely aware that it's also not a sizable amount of money for the world that we're up against.
Mhm.
That like and so it can't if we're hoping that it stands on its own, then I think we have to dramatically downsize what my ambitious hopes would be for its impact. But I don't think it has to stand on its own. I mean, I think I've heard of so many projects that are intending to create resources or frameworks or even just like communities of people who are rethinking and that what the role is of story in the Christian world. And I think that has the legs to expand beyond this, again, very sizable amount of money and these 5 years, but could go even bigger than that. And that would be my hope, I guess.
Hmm. No, I agree. I'm hoping this is catalytic and creates some ripples, and that actually there are some. I, I don't know. I'm the David and Goliath person, right? Like I am hoping it is a little bit like that. That it's,
Yeah.
that new narratives and story change and more hope is out there about the world and the work that we're doing. I actually hope that actually through doing this work, which feels very different than what the endowment has been doing, like they've invested in thriving congregations and um, young adults and pastors and pastoral care. I'm actually hoping that with this grant, it actually points to some of the work that the ecology needs for the church that is becoming.
Hmm.
Um, anyway, that would be my hope too, is that, and out of this grant, that maybe some different initiatives that we couldn't even imagine before this grant happened are happening. So,
I'm cheating. I don't have a grant. But I really still like, but I've been close to it, and I really feel what I'm excited about as an outsider looking in on this is Melissa listed all the various types of organizations that
mhm,
are receiving money, you know, and then there are more even beyond that list, right? And I think that the exciting thing, one of the exciting things for me too, thinking about this initiative is sure, all the folks who are going to be engaging with the whatever is produced from these projects, but also the people that I've been able to talk to who are leading these projects. I mean, the two of you for sure too. I mean, like, what's changing in the institutions?
Hmm.
yes. Yeah.
Even the people we've had on this show already, and I mean, we know the ones
Yes.
that are coming up. They're, I mean, honestly, all the lineup is incredible.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, the things that these resources are allowing those leaders and organizations to consider that they hadn't before, and is really really exciting to me, and seeing like what are those the ripple effects
Mm,
from that change of people bringing in amazing groups like Asha and Mike, who, you know, teaser is gonna, you know, you'll hear from on this episode, on this podcast, is like, what is the identity of these organizations? What is the story they're ultimately trying to tell generally, and how does that identity check for these organizations, how does that help them? How does us, another teaser, learning about good listening, how does us becoming better listeners change these organizations and us in general? I think all of that is really really good. I have a question, since this was about coordination programs, because yes, all of this is happening independently of one another inside of these individual organizations with their independent projects. As you all think about a coordination program where there's an opportunity for those leaders and projects to listen to one another, what is your hope? What
mm.
are each of your hopes for a coordination program, bringing, as Melissa talked about, hosting, hospitably hosting, being good listeners there, and learning from one another? What are the things that you're hoping the coordination program can bring, um, both at large, but maybe even to your own individual projects?
Why don't you go first, Josh?
Okay, uh, sure. The I mean, I love the idea of a coordination program. I don't. It's not entirely clear to me just yet what they're coordinating, except that, you know, they Melissa did say on the, I can't remember if this is on the interview that we have here or if it was in the webinar, the gathering, that if it was, they're going to coordinate some learning, and so there are things that I'm hoping to learn, and hopefully those things will overlap with what they want to learn, and namely, I mean, it's in the world, that this Christian environment where even the places that are starting to see potentially some resurgence or renewal or whatever, the mood has just been so bad for so long that
Mhm.
I'm hopeful that we can learn how to be different, and
Mm,
like, the task of this grant is to go out and collect all the stories that we want. Nobody's making us collect stories that we don't want to hear. We got to pitch what kind of stories we wanted to hear about, and then we get to go hear them. And that should, I would hope, make us like that we
mm,
could be different kinds of Christians than we would have otherwise been. We could be more joyful, we could be more expansive, we could be more optimistic. And I'm very much longing for a community, a gathering, an ecosystem, whatever you want to call it, that is like living into that kind of Christianity, not this like, please let's shut all the doors because the sky is falling, and let's go bury ourselves in the basement and hope that this goes away. You know, whatever that this is at the moment. I mean, this is always some amorphous boogeyman, right? But actually, like, can we lead with genuine faithfulness and knowledge that, if what we say we believe is true, that Jesus is the good news and that we get to share it with people, we shouldn't be so dang sad all the time. I don't want to be Pollyanna-ish and like pretend like there are problems. That's not what I'm suggesting. But I think that there's this opportunity here through these stories to get to be a different kind of people.
Oh, I love that. I think it's interesting. There's a theme going through our conversation today about the change in us, and the change in us that changes organizations, that changes culture, that changes systems. And I agree with all of that. I think, a coordination program at its best can gather people. And when we gather, can we be generous with one another, hopeful? Can we lean in? I did ask Melissa in her conversation about what she thinks about competition. And the one I think that competition doesn't exist between grantees or in the ecology, I I just think that's not true. I do think that generosity begets generosity, but I think when grantees gather, I think there is a level of I've got to show you what we've accomplished
Mm.
and and actually how do we create that learning culture? So I think that would be one of my hopes for the coordination program. I think we need to get faster at synthesizing the trends, the learning, the skills, like all of that, and pushing it out to everyone in ways that people can actually take that and embed it in their organization. And I think that's the value of having a coordination program, is if they can do that. And I think thirdly, I would say if they can help catalyze more collaboration across the grantees. So I get, on one hand, um one of the things that's so amazing about the endowment is they focus on the agency of of the grantee, of the context there. Like, the person that gets the grant is the expert in their context, and they give them agency. And I love that. But also, how do you, actually, we can be better together. So sometimes. And so, how do we help people find one another quicker? Which one of the reasons I love doing this with the two of you is because we're mapping and we're starting to see where people are doing different things that are similar, and how we can, reach out and connect people. I love that. But I think from a scale of a coordination program, so much is possible there.
Mhm.
Well, and just sharing from my own experience, the work that these storytelling organizations are doing is not transactional work. It's deeply spiritual, it's deeply relational. And so that type of storytelling work, that type of narrative change work, I believe really only happens in community. Truly, like, it really only happens in
Mhm.
community. And then, but I think, like, it's only sustained in community, because I think for some of the challenges you've already named, Josh and Shannon, that we are going to have collectively moments, and hopefully not collectively at the same time, but sometimes, yes, simultaneous, where it feels like we've taken, a couple of steps forward and a step and a half back, fumbling backwards. And like I mentioned in my own experience, that the survival of that feeling inside of learning what's working, in this time when, one use of one word incorrectly can empty a room, or create such great offense that people stop listening or shut their computer or delete the account or whatever, what have you. How are we learning from one another? How are we reminding ourselves that this is generational work beyond a 5-year grant period?
Yeah.
And that this isn't just a flash in the pan moment, but narrative change requires long suffering, and patience, among us. How do we make sure that we have the spiritual tools, the emotional, mental tools, as well as these, like, really practical storytelling tools, to help sustain? I think is a real thing. As some of you, y'all have already been collaborating with some folks already. what is the fruit that you've found in doing that already organically? And how do you hope, I mean, Shannon, you mentioned like it being coordination program being catalytic. If I don't know if there are examples that you all can give, but and then saying like what could that practically look like catalytically across all of them? I'd just love to hear.
I would. This has already been a point of frustration for me. I mean, we're 6 months into this, and I would say that like we're still doing just a tremendous amount of Googling to find vendors, suppliers, like it. And sometimes like, yeah, like we talk or whatever, but also like y'all are busy and have other things to do. And so do the other people. And so like, I don't pick up the phone and call somebody every single time. So I would say it actually there hasn't been much. I mean, I've been inspired and like encouraged by the stories of other people. It is always useful for me to hear what other people are going through and what they're doing. Um, but when I think about sort of like what is still needed, some place where people could put out RFPs, where people could post job calls, where I could even read other people's RFPs to see what they're asking for. That would help so much. For a videographer, I've never hired a videographer before. I'm gonna, like we're gonna do our best, and AI helps, and Google has examples, and but still, it's not quite in this context, and I'm always afraid I'm missing something. Um, one of the things I'll say in this regard is Shannon used the term mapping, and I was thinking about this initiative because when you first said it to me, I was like mapping the whole thing. And then I started thinking, like, it's like, it's less than 100 people or entities, 100, maybe 125 or whatever it is at this moment. You can know them. Like
Yeah.
a person can know them and hold all those projects in their head. And not deeply and not every, but like you could do a 3 or 4 sentence description about 100 people do that all the time. And so I don't think it has to be that complicated.
No, I'm with you. And I think you're right. It's like it can, even on the vendor thing, right? Like it can just save some time, right? Like if people are just talking about who they're using. By the way, I do
Yeah.
have a videographer. There's a great guy in Houston that we used for a gathering that I found through Lisa Greenwood, and he was phenomenal. Price was great. I've recommended him a lot. So I'm happy to send you his details.
Please do. That'd be great.
And Elizabeth's met him because he was in Austin at the Fieldworks gathering.
Well, and I think, y'all are both naming something so practically. I did meet him. He was lovely. We should all use him. If you're in the area, he's lovely. But there are folks who have hired videographers 30, 40, 50, thousands of times that then know, like even the right, appropriate use of language, how to budget correctly. I know everyone submitted budgets and budget narratives, but then when it comes to animation, you're like, oh, $1,500 per minute versus $3,000 per minute of animation. Like, how are you thinking through that? How do you weigh all that? So what I'm hearing is some sort of vetted vendor list would be amazing of folks who have used and would be really valuable.
Even a crowdsourced one, like because so a very practical example in the webinar, somebody actually asked in the Q&A that they were needing some like research or evaluation. And like, of course, like I'm sitting there, like wanting to raise my hand and be like, well, like very, very generous. Like we'd be happy to be considered. We might not be right for it, but that's clearly not the place to do that. And so I did not say anything or even follow up. But also, I think we know from previous coordination programs that Belmont isn't going to do that. Like Melissa's not going to do it. She's not going to say, I mean, she did have a recommendation through Sue Weber for a place that then will like connect you potentially to other places. So they are, I think, trying to find that. And I would say that shouldn't be their role, is to vet vendors for different things. I mean, that gets really messy very quickly. But someplace where we could all sort of like raise our hands to say, hey, this is work that we do, or this is a person I'd recommend, even that would be super useful.
Yeah, agreed. And, and I do get other coordination programs are trying to do this work, but it also takes the participation, which is to say, and this goes back to what you said, Josh, earlier, is we've got to show up differently in that space. We've got to say, here are the people we're using. Here's what we've learned, and participate in those forums. So
well, and I want to. We said this at the top of the episode, but you mentioned, Shannon, about research that you all have done that you're hoping to find ways to be shareable. Others are doing very similar research. I want to also name what feels like a sensitivity is folks are sensitive to just putting that out there, raw data and information out there that they're attaining, because they're also wanting to be good stewards of that. And that I really respect. So I get excited about the possibility of a coordinated effort to put that out in wise ways, that to put information out in wise ways, to put examples of stories out in wise ways that helps everyone learn collectively. And I think even putting that out in wise ways with partners who I was just like raising my hand, who don't have a storytelling grant, who might be great platforms for that information to live and be shared with other networks. So even outside of this. So yeah, all exciting stuff.
Yeah. So we'll be gathering in May in Indianapolis.
Oh yeah, that's right. We haven't decided who's going. I doubt it'll be me. It'll probably be Nikki, but there's a gathering. And then there's one is there one in the fall, did you say? Too?
There's one, but it's for the round one, for the invitation.
Gotcha.
And it's online. They're going to gather online.
Gotcha. Oh, yeah, sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this will be exciting. I mean, I'm really interested to follow along and see. Obviously, we're going to be not just following along, but in it. So grateful to Belmont for raising their hands to say, yes, and take this work on. And Melissa clearly seems like the right person for the job. And so happy that she came on to talk through it a little bit. We will have her back on at some point to say is it going the way you thought it would? I mean, look, we're all like pulling back the curtain, and we'll ask her to do the same thing at some point. We'll see if she says yes. She can always decline. But this has been super. As always, we learn stuff every time that we're together. So if you want to be a guest on this, simply drop me a line, josh@futureoffaith.org. We've got a very compelling lineup coming in the coming weeks, months. Actually, we're scheduled out. It's going to be super interesting. So please do follow along, and we'll see you next time. You've been listening to the Backstory podcast. For all the episodes and more resources, head over to www.futureoffaith.org/storytelling.